You say you want to be great, but every night, you scroll yourself to sleep, and deep down, you feel it. This isn't rest, it's resignation. You think no one's watching, but your future is, and it's wondering why you keep feeding it the same empty silence, the same blue light, the same late-night lie, that I'll do better tomorrow. But the men you admire, they don't wait for morning. They start at night, when the world is quiet, when no one's cheering, no one's posting, no one's looking. That's when they build, not loudly, not with fireworks and fanfare, but in shadows, in silence, in discipline, because they know what you've been avoiding, that the evening isn't the end of the day, it's the beginning of the next one. And if you lose the night, you've already lost tomorrow. But here's what no one tells you. The war isn't fought in the morning. It's won in the quiet hour when you choose whether to numb out or tune in, whether to run from your thoughts or face them, own them, rewrite them. Most people don't have evening routines. They have escape plans, notifications, Netflix, noise. One more dopamine hit before the darkness settles in, and they call that rest. But you're starting to remember something, aren't you? The nights you felt proud, not entertained. The nights you went to bed empty of distraction, but full of discipline. Those weren't ordinary nights. They were sacred because they were yours, not the world's. You weren't born for numbness. You were built for clarity, and clarity is carved in the quiet when everyone else is asleep, including the version of you that keeps losing. So let me ask you straight. When the lights go off, who are you? Are you still chasing comfort or finally confronting your calling? Because the men you admire, they don't live by chance, they live by ritual. And those rituals begin right here in the dark. The night reveals what the day hides. In daylight, anyone can pretend to be disciplined, to show up, check boxes, speak with strength, but at night, there's nowhere to hide, no one to impress, just you and your mind, unfiltered, unmasked, unprepared. And that's where the real work begins. Marcus Aurelius didn't wait for motivation. He wrote in the dark, to himself, not to be read, not to be praised, but to confront the chaos within. He didn't say, I'm tired. He said, you were born to do this, even when his body was sore, even when the empire was burning. Because to the Stoics, night was never an excuse, it was a gift. The moment the world turned down its noise, so you could turn up your awareness. Most people think nighttime is for shutting down, for disconnecting. But that's the lie. The night isn't for closing your eyes. It's for opening your mind, not for escaping your problems, but facing them, without distraction, without the spotlight, without applause. Seneca spoke of reviewing his day each night, a moral inventory, not to punish, but to improve. He asked himself, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What will I do better? He turned reflection into power, self-critique into peace, because peace doesn't come from comfort, it comes from alignment. And maybe that's what you've been missing. You try to force discipline. In the morning, when your brain is cloudy, your heart confused, but you never planted anything the night before. Discipline isn't a switch you flip at sunrise. It's a slow burn you light at dusk. You want to wake up with clarity? Then stop going to bed with chaos. You want to start strong? Then end with structure. There's a reason monks, warriors, philosophers all had rituals for the night, not because they feared the dark, but because they honored what it revealed. Your thoughts, your regrets, your unresolved truth. That's where discipline begins, not in action, but in awareness. So here's the shift. Stop treating night as a time to shut down. Start seeing it as a forge, a sacred fire where your next self is hammered into form. Because the men you admire, they don't drift into sleep, they descend into discipline and rise in power. Routine 1. The shutdown ritual. You think you're ending your day, but really, you're leaving it open, bleeding, unfinished, every tab still open, every thought still racing, every app still whispering, just one more thing. And then you wonder why you wake up tired, scattered, already behind. Because you didn't end the day, you just collapsed into the next one. But the men you admire, They don't collapse, they close. They don't drift into sleep, they shut it down. There's a ritual to it, a sacred sequence, a declaration. I'm done for today, and that's enough. No unresolved loops, no background noise pretending to be peace, just a conscious reset, a line drawn in the dirt between effort and surrender. You can feel it, can't you? The difference between a day that ends in exhaustion and one that ends in completion. They don't pick up their phone one last time. They put it away, far. They don't scroll themselves into distraction. They close their laptop like a door. They don't binge shows to avoid their thoughts. They face them, name them, let them go, because you can't control tomorrow if you're still haunted by today. This is the first ritual, not a hack, not a tip, but a moment of finality, to reclaim control from the chaos. Write down what you did, not for likes, but for legacy. Cross off what matters, leave the rest for daylight. Ask yourself, did I move the needle or just chase notifications? Did I live by design or by default? Am I proud of how I showed up or just relieved it's over? This is the shutdown ritual, the quiet act of self-respect, because how you end the day is how you sleep, and how you sleep is how you rise. You want stillness in the morning? Then create stillness at night. You want clarity? Then close the tabs in your browser, in your brain. One breath, one notebook, one final line. Enough for today. And the world may not notice, but your soul will. And the men you admire? They've been doing this for years, while you were still trying to fall asleep without peace. Routine 2. Strategic solitude. Most people are afraid of being alone, so they fill the silence with noise, with screens, with distractions that feel like company, but leave them lonelier than before. You know the feeling, don't you? You turn off the lights, but your thoughts stay loud. So you scroll, you binge, you run from the echo in your chest, that soft voice that whispers, you were made for more than this. The men you admire, they don't run, they sit in it. They seek the silence. They don't fear solitude, they use it. Because solitude isn't emptiness, it's exposure, and exposure reveals truth. This is where strategic solitude comes in. A deliberate moment each night to step away from the noise, not to disconnect from life, but to reconnect with yourself. You find a corner, a chair, a journal, or maybe just the sound of your own breath, and in that stillness, you begin the inventory. You ask, where was I sharp today? Where did I fall short? Did I act out of courage or comfort? Seneca wrote that every night, he would examine himself, line by line, without ego, without excuse. I will show you how I make my inquiry. What evil habit I have cured today? What fault resisted? What virtue acquired? He didn't wait for crisis. He created clarity through reflection, through silence. And maybe that's what you've been missing. Not a better plan, not a new app, but a quiet corner where truth can speak louder than distraction. You don't need candles or incense or a perfect vibe. You need presence. You need the courage to sit with what's real, to admit the hard things, to forgive yourself without letting yourself off the hook. This is where strength is forged, not in motion, but in reflection. Because if you don't study your days, you'll repeat your mistakes. You'll mistake busyness for progress. And one day you'll look back and wonder how you got so far from the man you meant to become. But if you take 10 minutes, 15, to sit with your soul, to ask the questions no one else will, you'll begin to see patterns, and patterns are power. This is how the men you admire built themselves, not through noise, but through nightly confrontation, through honesty in the dark, and it's not glamorous. It won't go viral, but neither will your regrets. So make space, light a candle, or don't, but sit, be still, and listen, because the answers don't come from more noise. They come from you, in solitude, on purpose. Routine 3. Mental reset. There's a heaviness you carry, not in your arms, but in your mind. The things you didn't say, the things you said too quickly, the messes you made, the thoughts you wish would leave you alone, and you try to fall asleep with all that's still clinging to you. Like dirt under your fingernails, like smoke in your lungs. But you can't rest with a battlefield in your brain, and you can't rise with clarity if you're still drowning in yesterday's noise. That's why the men you admire, they reset. Before their head hits the pillow, before the darkness turns into dreaming. They don't carry everything forward. They release it, not because they're perfect, but because they refuse to rot under the weight of their own mind. This is the mental reset, a ritual, a release, a quiet decision to close the doors of thought, one by one, until only peace remains. For some, it's cold water, a deliberate shock to the system. Wash off the day, not just the sweat, but the stress, the scrolling, the shame. For others, it's breath work, deep, slow inhalations, exhaling the panic, the pace, the pressure, letting the nervous system know, you're safe now. For the Stoics, it was detachment, not apathy, but control. Epictetus said, some things are up to us, and some things are not. And if it's not in your control, why lose your peace over it? So they reset by letting go, by reminding themselves that the mind is a garden, not a landfill, and what you allow to sit in it overnight. That's what grows. You can carry the argument, the failure, the fear, but why? What does it serve but more exhaustion? Instead, choose one small ritual, a walk under the night sky, a note written to your future self, a whispered truth. I did what I could. Tomorrow, I'll do better. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. This is how strong men stay clear, not by grinding through mental fog, but by clearing it, night after night, until peace becomes the new default. You won't find this on productivity blogs. They'll tell you to plan, to prep, to maximize, but they forget that power isn't just about doing. It's about releasing, forgiving, resetting, and the men you admire? They do it every night because they know you can't build tomorrow with a mind still haunted by yesterday. Routine 4. Feeding the mind. Most people spend their nights consuming. They confuse noise for knowledge, entertainment for education, distraction for decompression, and then they wonder why their mind feels soft, why their thoughts feel secondhand, why their confidence is leaking through cracks they can't name. It's because they never feed their mind. But the men you admire? They don't let the world decide what enters their brain. They curate it, sharpen it, fortify it. While others reach for the remote, they reach for books, not to appear smart, but to stay sharp, because they know that what you consume consistently becomes your inner voice eventually. This is the 4th ritual, feeding the mind, not with junk, but with clarity, with wisdom, with truth that cuts through the noise. One page of Marcus, one paragraph of Meditations, one sentence that reminds you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's a stronger sedative than any screen, and it doesn't numb you. It wakes you up. It returns you to yourself. Because here's the truth. You're not tired. You're overstimulated. You're not uninspired. You're overexposed. You've let too many voices into your temple, and now you can't hear your own. But this ritual? This is the cleansing, the rewiring, the reminder that your mind is not a trash can. It's a weapon. And like any weapon, it needs sharpening, intention, discipline. It's not about reading for hours. It's about reading with direction, feeding yourself words that align with the man you're trying to become, not the algorithm you're trying to escape. So choose wisely. Maybe it's a philosophy text. Maybe it's a journal entry. Maybe it's reviewing your principles, your values, your reasons. This isn't homework. This is armor for tomorrow's chaos, tomorrow's conflict, tomorrow's temptations. Because when your mind is well fed, you stop reacting, you start responding from a place of strength, from a place of sovereignty. The men you admire? They don't stumble into wisdom. They devour it, quietly, ritually, night after night, until their thinking becomes a fortress. And if you want to walk into battle with a blade in your hand, not a screen in your face, then feed your mind before the world fills it for you. Routine 5. Preparing the battlefield. Most people wake up and stumble into the war, coffee in one hand, chaos in the other, checking notifications before checking in with themselves, reacting before even remembering what they stand for. But the men you admire, they prepare the battlefield the night before because they know mornings are for execution, evenings are for strategy. This is routine 5, laying the armor out before the arrows fly, not in panic, but in presence. They don't just plan their tasks, they clarify their intentions. They ask, what does tomorrow demand of me? And more importantly, who must I be to rise to that? It's not about time blocking every second. It's about decision reduction, removing friction, eliminating guesswork. Because guesswork in the morning is how you drift into distraction, how your focus gets hijacked before breakfast, how you waste your energy choosing socks instead of choosing your priorities. So the wise prepare. They review their calendar, lay out their tools, visualize the hard conversations, pre-decide their responses, even anticipate the traps, the scroll holes, the sugar cravings, the self-doubt spirals. This isn't over-planning. It's Stoic foresight. It's the principle of premeditatio malorum, to visualize potential obstacles, so when the chaos comes, you're not shaken, you're steady. Because here's the truth. The world isn't waiting to serve you. It's testing you. Every morning, every hour, and if you walk into it unprepared, you'll bend to its will, not your own. The men you admire, they don't treat the day like a lottery ticket. They treat it like a battlefield, and they don't just hope they'll win. They set the terms, they write the rules, they sharpen the spear the night before. That's what this ritual is, a quiet sharpening, a gentle confrontation with what tomorrow holds. So when the sun rises, you don't flinch, you flow. You've already seen the battle, you've already chosen your weapons, you've already decided how to move, how to speak, how to lead. And that kind of preparation, it creates presence, because nothing robs your peace more than being unready. So before you sleep tonight, plan your attack, anchor your mind, simplify your morning, not to control everything, but to control how you show up, because that's the real war, not against the world, but against the version of you who settles for less than what you're capable of. Now you've seen the path, not in theory, but in practice. 5 night routines that don't just prepare you for tomorrow. They transform who you are today. Not flashy, not aesthetic, not viral, just real, repeatable, magnetic, because that's what discipline does. It whispers, it doesn't shout. You won't go viral for journaling your failures. You won't get applause for planning your next 24 hours. No one's handing out trophies for skipping sugar, reading Marcus Aurelius, or sleeping at 10 p.m. But silently, without permission, you're becoming the man you said you would be, the kind of man who doesn't beg the world to be easier. He trains himself to be stronger, quieter, sharper, less reactive, more rooted. This isn't about having perfect nights. It's about intentional ones, because how you end the day is how you start the next. And if you want a different future, you don't need to wait for motivation. You need to build rituals that make motivation irrelevant, because one day you'll look back and realize it wasn't the big speeches or the major breakthroughs that rewired you. It was the small, quiet, overlooked decisions made at 9:47 p.m. when no one was watching, when it was easier not to, when your old self begged for comfort and you chose something higher instead. That's where transformation lives, not in the morning hype, but in the nighttime humility, when the world goes silent and your soul asks, are you still becoming, or are you just surviving? The men you admire? They don't become that way overnight. They become that way every night, by showing up for themselves in ways no one claps for, but everyone feels, eventually. And if you do this, even inconsistently, even imperfectly, you'll wake up one day and realize your life feels lighter, your mind feels calmer, your focus returns quicker, your decisions feel truer, not because the world changed, but because your rituals did. So tonight, you have a choice: scroll, snack, snooze, repeat the decay, or sharpen, simplify, strengthen, repeat the rebirth. The difference? Just 90 minutes, just 5 decisions, just one vow. I'll end the day as the man I want to wake up as. That's the real glow up. That's the real peace. That's the path of the Stoic. Not louder, just deeper. Not faster, just clearer. Not perfect, just prepared. Remember how we started this? You, scrolling in the dark, dragging the weight of today into tomorrow, suffocating your clarity, calling it rest. But look at what you've seen now. Look at what's possible when you reclaim the night, when you stop seeing it as leftovers and start treating it as launchpad. This isn't about routines, it's about identity. Because each of those rituals, shutdown, solitude, journaling, planning, rest, isn't just something you do. It's a way of telling yourself, I'm not at the mercy of life. I am the sculptor. And that shift, that quiet conviction, is what separates the distracted from the disciplined, the drained from the driven, the sleepwalkers from the sovereigns. Let's loop it back. When you shut down your day with intention, you're not just ending work, you're declaring ownership. You're saying, this is where I draw the line. When you sit in strategic solitude, you're not just alone, you're reconnecting to the only voice that matters. Yours, away from the feed, away from the noise. When you journal your thoughts, you're not venting, you're organizing your chaos, translating emotions into clarity, weakness into insight. When you plan the next day, you're not just making a to-do list, you're rehearsing dominance, taking tomorrow off the table of chance and placing it firmly in your hands. And when you sleep like it's sacred, you're not escaping, you're recovering, recharging the warrior so he can return with fire. Every act becomes sacred when it's done with intention. Every repetition becomes a signal to your brain. This is who I am now. And the beautiful part? You don't have to announce it. No need for the post. No need for external validation. Because your energy starts doing the talking, the people around you feel the difference. They can't explain it, but you look calmer, stronger, like a man who doesn't run from the dark, but uses it, because the night isn't where most men fall behind. It's where most men choose to finally get ahead. You don't rise in the morning, you rise the night before, in silence, in solitude, in systems that make you unshakable. So here's the echo. Here's what I need you to carry. You become magnetic not by screaming louder, but by retreating deeper, disciplining quieter, and waking up already ahead. This is the code. This is the system. This is how the men you admire got built. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Not when the world was watching, but when they were the only ones in the room. And now, it's your room, your night, your move. So, will you scroll or will you sculpt? So now you know the 5 evening routines that silently sculpt powerful men. Not for applause, but for alignment. Not to impress, but to prepare. Because power isn't always loud. It doesn't always look like hustle or hype. Sometimes, it looks like a quiet man closing his laptop at 9 p.m., putting his phone away, sitting with his thoughts, and saying, I've done enough for today. Now, I recover so I can dominate tomorrow. And you don't need 100 habits. You don't need a perfect routine. You just need a decision. A vow to show up for your future when the world is asleep and distractions are whispering your name. Because that's the moment that defines you. Not the morning post, not the grind montage, but the nighttime choices no one sees. That's where men are made. You heard it earlier, but maybe now, it finally landed. You don't need to feel ready. You need to become ready. And readiness is built in the quiet. When no one's watching, when everyone else is still scrolling, you're closing your tabs. You're cleaning your space. You're taking back control, one ordinary night at a time. You're not lazy. You're just full of noise. You've been overstimulated, overinformed, overdistracted, and somewhere in that chaos, you forgot the truth. Discipline is not punishment. It's protection. It's love and armor. You protect your morning by honoring your night. You protect your ambition by respecting your body. You protect your future by slowing down in the present. That's the loop. That's the echo. That's the rhythm you've forgotten. But it's still inside you. Remember the first ritual? Decluttering the battlefield. You're not cleaning a room. You're clearing a war zone so your mind can breathe again. Or the second, the audit, not of numbers, but of choices. So tomorrow isn't a repetition of regrets. The third, the wind down vow, where you stop chasing dopamine and start choosing alignment. The fourth, a moment of silence, where you face yourself without running, without noise, just presence. And the fifth, the body, that sacred engine, you stop treating like a trash bin for sugar and stress, and started honoring as your vehicle for greatness. Each one is simple, each one is hard, each one is worth it, because here's the deepest truth. Your nights are not the end, they are the edge of a beginning, and how you stand at that edge, shaky or still, distracted or dialed in, will define who you become. You've known this all along, but maybe now you're ready to act on it, or maybe you're scared. That's fine too. Fear is just a sign you're finally standing at the threshold of something real. And when you cross it, when you hold the line for just one more night, you'll see it. You weren't broken, you were just buried under noise. And now, you're digging yourself out, silently, steadily, with discipline in your bones and stillness in your breath. Think of yourself like a blacksmith. Not the kind who waits for perfect weather, but the one who forges regardless of season. Because the steel doesn't shape itself, and neither do you. Every evening is your anvil, every habit, a hammer, and each time you repeat these routines, you're not just preparing for tomorrow, you're shaping a man the world can't shake. You see, Stoicism isn't just about quotes and calmness, it's about construction, brick by brick, routine by routine, until your life becomes a fortress, but not a fortress built to keep the world out. A fortress built to hold your inner world in place, when chaos knocks, when temptation whispers, when weakness looks like comfort and comfort looks like love. That's when you'll be glad you built it. Not when everything's on fire, but because you expected the fire and trained your soul to stay still in the heat. Here's what most people miss. The evening is not for collapse, it's for calibration. The day runs you, but the night is where you take yourself back. Because in the morning, the world starts speaking again, but in the evening, you still have a choice. A window to reframe, to reset, to return. Return to what? To yourself, to your vow, to the inner temple that modern life is trying to bulldoze daily. So protect it, not with noise, not with ego, but with sacred silence, with still effort, with these small, invisible actions no one claps for. Because greatness is rarely seen, but always felt. And it's felt most by the man who honors the hours when no one's watching. That's what this is about. Not a checklist, but a code. Not hype, but harmony. You want to become magnetic? Strong? Grounded? Then stop chasing the morning routine of millionaires and start protecting the evening rituals of warriors. The ones who close the day with deliberate intention, not distraction disguised as freedom. Let the world celebrate the sunrise you. You'll be the one who quietly dominated the night before, while everyone else was still lost in their scroll. That's Stoic power, not in the scream, but in the stillness. And if you're ready, we'll etch this into your bones. One habit at a time, one vow at a time, one night at a time. So here you are, at the edge of night. The noise is fading, the world is slowing. And now, it's just you and the mirror of your own choices. No one will see this moment. No one will applaud it. But these are the hours that define your life. Not the highlight reels, not the loud wins, but the quiet return to discipline when quitting feels easier. Because when you lay your head down tonight, you're not just falling asleep. You're sending a message to your future self, to your nervous system, to your soul. You're saying, I'm not owned by the world's pace. I'm not mastered by comfort. I end the day on my terms. That's not productivity. That's philosophy. That's the Stoic creed. To control what you can, to release what you must, and to walk calmly into whatever tomorrow brings. So maybe tonight, you don't need a new tactic. You just need a reminder that even one ritual, done with intention, can pull you out of months of chaos. One journal entry, one glass of water, one moment of silence, can be the thread that starts to weave your identity back together. Because what you do repeatedly, becomes what you believe about yourself. And what you believe about yourself shapes what you allow, what you chase, what you endure. And if tonight you choose discipline over dopamine, stillness over scrolls, reflection over reaction, then you've already won before the next day begins. So as your screen fades to black, ask yourself, who am I becoming based on how I end my day? Let that question echo. Let it keep you honest. Let it guide your hands tonight. Whether they're folding clothes or writing intentions or simply resting without guilt, because your future doesn't begin at sunrise. It begins now, when no one's watching and you choose to show up anyway. And if this is the night you start again, then welcome back. The path missed you, but it never moved. Now breathe deep, turn off the noise, and meet the next sunrise. Already winning, because tomorrow belongs to the man who mastered the night before. If this video sparked something in you, if it reminded you of what you've always known deep down, that you're not tired, you're just misaligned, then it's time to rewire your nights, one ritual at a time. And if you want more clarity, more strength, more structure to help you win not just evenings but life, then this channel was built for you. I break down Stoic wisdom, modern self-discipline, and the invisible habits that build unshakable men in a distracted world. So don't just watch. Join. Subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment and tell me, which of these 5 routines are you committing to this week? What's the one ritual you'll protect no matter what? Because even one night can change your momentum. Even one decision, made in the dark, can lead you back to your light. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just one sacred evening away from becoming someone you respect again. So, log off, lock in, and show tomorrow who's in charge. This is Stoic discipline, and it's time to rise, not in the noise, but in the night.